Hello, everyone. Welcome to Four Let's Have a Dream Monday Night Live, or as we call it here, same old pish Rangers. The season is done, and two catastrophic defeats have led us to where we are now. This will be a very straightforward and straight talking podcast this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Expect it to have lots of swearing. Yeah. Not good. Kenny, good evening, mate. How are you?
Well, I'm not bad, mate. I've had toothache all weekend, and that has been more enjoyable than that second half was, so could be better.
Davey, how are you, mate?
Well, it wasn't the pod I was hoping to come on to, let's put it that way. As you say, I think a bit of straight talking is going to come up because it needs said.
Yeah, we're going to cover it. I mean, what do we say? I think everybody is angry. I think everybody wants reactions. I think everybody wants to lash out. We're going to have to look at it, logically. Danny Rowe's under massive pressure. Nobody can sit here and say otherwise. If Danny Rowe doesn't get a result next week, then he is gone for Rangers manager in the eyes of most, and I think in the eyes of most he probably is already. £50 million to finish third is criminal. And yeah, we've made mistakes, Russell Martin and everything else, but we got ourselves back in there, and we were literally a game away from going top, and we're now 7 behind, and only Rangers can do it. I've warned of this. Rangers can only stop themselves, and they have. It's my own fault. I got positive. I genuinely felt like Rangers were heading, manifesting absolutely everything, all my energy, everything into positivity in regards to Rangers, and they have completely shit all over us. I don't even know if there's much point in doing a kind of game by game or a review of this game tonight, because it's more or less the story of the season. Rangers completely in control of the first half, dominating. Said it on the chat at half time. I felt like we had missed a trick, because at 1-0 there was loads of times we had the ball and we didn't carry it on, we didn't go forward with it, and we were too passive, in control but passively. And yeah, second half was unfortunately thoroughly predictable. And what made it even worse is you could literally tell within the first 3, 4, 5 minutes of that second half what was coming. And we don't react, we don't fix it. And think about this, and this is the most worrying thing for me. All Derek McInnes had to do was put 3 in midfield to combat that. And our midfield, who had 3 in it, Chukwani, Diamande and Raskin, were completely nullified by a Hearts midfield that didn't really have to work that hard. Yet again, exact same as Motherwell, there's so much room on our wings, and the equalisers, or the equaliser and then the winning goal comes from Rangers not dealing with stuff and not clearing for stuff. So, Kenny, it gets to a point where you're just quite sick and tired of this usual collapse of Rangers. They have completely blown it. I'm going to say something really controversial here. I don't want them to win the league. I would rather Hearts win the league. So see, the more it went on and the more it was clear we weren't going to score 2, I really didn't want us to equalise, because we're going to finish third, and a draw would have been catastrophic for wanting them to win the league. So I'm sorry if that sounds really bad. Got to hope that Hearts win it now to stop them. Rangers are going to finish third, which means conference football, which means a summer holidays of about 3 days. And it's all just a bit pitifully pish, I'm afraid.
Well, the players have got what they deserve. The players need to take a good look at themselves. Danny Rowe needs to take a good look at himself. The Motherwell game was there for the taking, and we've turned up with a half-arsed attitude. Turned up today. I thought we controlled the game, as you say, in the first half, without being. I was tuning into the chat a little bit, although I wasn't commenting too much. And I didn't agree with much of what was getting said, to be honest, because I just felt we were a little bit not doing very much. And we got the goal, and it was a good time to get the goal. And I thought we controlled it, as I say. But from the instant the second half started, Hearts had an intensity that we couldn't match. It was the same last week in the first half against Motherwell. Couldn't match their intensity at all. Now, that is down to the coach. It's down to the players. It's about application. It's all these things. And at the end of the day, I'm saying that it's also about talent. And I think some of these guys are wondering about thinking they're Billy Big Boys because they play for Rangers. Well, you're playing for a Rangers team that's going to finish third. You're a poor Rangers team. That's what you are. And they deserve to finish third, because if that's the determination and the will to win that they have, that they decide that after 75 to 80 minutes, having endured that half an hour or whatever it was in the second half, to think, oh, here, we need to up our game a little bit. The writing was on the wall the entire second half. Hearts could have run out winning more. So I don't really know what else to say other than the fact that, for me, this isn't a good Rangers team. Question marks are over the head coach. If I'm being 100% blunt, I've got big question marks over Danny Rule in my own head at this minute in time, purely because when teams change it, he seems very, very slow to react to it, and I don't like that. I think when you look at the Hearts 11 and our 11, I think they'll probably get better players on the pitch. So questions need asked.
Davey?
Yeah, I keep going back to what's the minimum you expect for a Rangers team? So the minimum, even if they're not the best players we've ever seen in a Rangers jersey, the minimum you would expect to see is a bit of desire, a bit of pride in the jersey, a bit of fight, a bit of organisation, a bit of will to win. And the second half had absolutely zero of any of that. It was utterly depressing. I think it's pretty typical that Hearts centre half, who headed everything out the box, came through the Rangers youth ranks, and the centre forward that scored the winning goal has been trying to join Rangers for the last 10 years. There's just no identity in this Rangers team. There's definitely questions about the manager, and we have spoken at length in this podcast about the squad he inherited, but I think it's time to ditch all this talk about last October. That has to go, because by January we were in the league. By January, and then after we spent a lot of money in January as well. By the time we played Hearts at Ibrox the last time, would we go 2 points behind them, was it, when we beat them? I think it was 2 points. The league was absolutely in our hands, and we have just completely and utterly blown it. Losers right through the team, and it's got to be said, it looks at the moment as if we've got a coach who doesn't install any particular team spirit, nor does he win games tactically when it's important. So it's May. It's going to be the annual discussion about who should be the Rangers manager next season. It seems to happen every May. And I've got absolutely no doubt that the majority of the support will now be looking for Rangers to make a change.
Yeah, we'll get to the whole Danny Rule thing. But we're back where we are, weren't we? Same old, really. You either make the really brave decision and bin him now and just say, look, if we don't, we're going to be back here in October. It's not necessarily that I think that, but the issue is that it's just how it always goes. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. First half, Rangers were very good. Scored a good goal from a James Tavernier throw-in, which is ironically more dangerous in his corners. Sterling a good finish, but for all the pressure, for all the possession, we don't create anything really. That's the problem with one up front. We control the midfield and then we don't do anything up front. And because Chermiti very rarely holds it up and he chases a lot, but he's very easily played around because when he's up there, nobody's really pushing behind him. And that showed in the second half. But first half wise, guys, we were very good on the ball without doing anything critical, without doing anything clinical, Kenny. And I just seen it coming at half time. I said it, I posted it online, I said it in our chat. 1-0 so fragile, and it's nothing really away from home. And for that first half, for all the domination we had, we should be creating more. We should be more clinical. There was a point, I think, around about 37 minutes or so where Manny Fernandes ran through, and it was back to Butland within 3 kicks. And there's just nothing there. There's no creativity. There's no, we've probably really guilty of it. We have blown smoke up really average players' arses, and they show it time and time again. They passed it about well and kept the ball, but there was just nothing to them at all, Kenny. And 1-0 at half time, after a first half that was really good, really in control, what did we actually create? Because aside of the goal, I don't remember much. Mikey Moore being down the right-hand side, scalps it across face of goal, a couple of corners, a couple of long throws. Didn't really test the goalkeeper, and that's been the story of Rangers. And I just felt that we flattered to deceive, almost too passive, had to go and get more from that level of control, and we didn't, and it cost us.
Well, yeah, the first half have come out with, first 10 minutes was quite even, I thought. Then for the next 35 minutes, we were the better side. We were controlling the game. I think tactically, to be fair to Dan, they really got that right. I think the way he'd set up was causing Hearts a lot of problems. They didn't seem to really know how to deal with us. We used our physicality very well in the first half, and they couldn't get the ball to stick up front. So we controlled there and kind of controlled from the back four to midfield. But I totally agree with you. I think from there, we just didn't create an awful lot. I don't think we've got other than Mikey Moore, we don't have a ball carrier. And I think that is something that needs addressed in the summer for the middle of that pitch. You need somebody that's going to come in there and control that. Now, on the chat, on our Four Lads chat, people were saying Diamandi was having a cracking game in the first half, and I didn't agree, actually. I thought he was okay. I didn't think he was bad at all. I didn't think he was anywhere near as good as people were saying he was. I thought he was giving the ball away an awful lot. I thought, and that's what concerns me. When you're dominant like that around about that 18-yard box, at least 1 and 2 of those passes you're trying have got to hit the target, and it wasn't really happening for me. But my main issue came, as I say, when it goes in at half-time, I think everybody knew Hearts were going to come out flying. And they did, and deserved to win the game at the end of it. So for me, it's just one of these things that I look at, and I think, you know, if you're Andrew Kavanagh and the 49ers, you've got major decisions to make over the next few weeks, Stevie. You have, because the last thing I want to see is any manager losing his job. But do you go into this summer backing Danny Rule with the mistakes he's made? And this is kind of set off from the 2 each game at home to Celtic, I think, where we were 2-0 up and flying, and Martin O'Neill changed and tweaked a couple of things, and he had no answer to it. And since then, I think tactically, when the chips have been really down, he's been found to be a young and learning head coach. That's what he is. I personally have always felt this. I think if you look back to last summer when we were talking about this, we all said this. We need a manager. We don't need a head coach at this football club. It's a manager that we need. And what you have to do is decide whether you're going to stick with Danny Rule or move forward. But you've got to back that. If you're going to change that situation, Stevie, you have to have a winner, a man that has won things come into this football club, because for too long, we're not giving people time, and whoever it comes in next, if it is going to be this way, they need time. And I know I'm talking perhaps emotionally at this minute in time about the way I feel about it, but I think we have literally chucked this league away when it was right there for us. And the can's got to be kicked somewhere with this. So that's kind of where I see it at this moment in time. As I say, it's very raw, very, very emotional at the moment, but I do feel that when you're watching that tonight, and then you watch last week, and then you add context to that over the previous few weeks, there's questions you need to ask, Stevie.
Yeah, I'll say a bit in a minute. David talking about that first half. Completely in control, but yet it was too passive. It was just nothing about them. We've said that so many times.
Yeah, I think yes, we had control of the first half, but contrast it to when Motherwell had control of the first half last week at Ibrox. Motherwell had 3 midfield against 2, the way we did today. And what did they do? They played it quickly, they played it down the flanks, they got the ball in, they made chances. I thought both of our wide men in the front 3 were pretty poor tonight. Scov Olsen was the surprise selection, if you like. Let's put it this way. I don't think he's a player who his first thought is to beat a fullback. I think his first thought is to keep the ball. And if it has to go backwards, it goes backwards. And as for young Moore, who's a terrific player, very good in the ball, but I think the number of times tonight he took on one man too many and lost possession was criminal. We had the advantage of the extra man in the first half and we done virtually nothing with it. And then as soon as Derek McInnes made the change that he was obviously going to make, which was the same change as Daniel made last weekend against Motherwell, evened up the midfield again. As soon as we couldn't coast through the game, playing all these nice little passes because with an extra man, as soon as there was somebody on top of us, we just melted. We just completely folded. It's difficult to see where we go from here other than the usual conversation, which is, you can see for the comments tonight, I don't think there's any more than 10% of the fans in this message board are probably saying they want to keep the manager. And just about everyone's saying they want rid of him. Yes, it's an emotional time, and maybe once we get to tomorrow, we look at it in a cold light of day, maybe we'll think differently. But Kenny's absolutely right, and I think I mentioned it last Monday. There's just been too many games were thrown away since January, and thrown away because of poor tactical decisions, because poor substitutions, and because some of the players that we keep relying on are just not good enough and never will be good enough. It's a sore one. It's yet another sore one. But if we want to go back to having the Rangers that we recognise, which seems a lifetime ago almost, we're going to have to make some proper tough decisions. And one of those decisions has to be who leads this team, who leads this club. Because at the moment, I don't think we've really got a leader. I think we've got a coach who is feeling his way, and I don't think the position that our club's in, that's what we can afford to have. No, we can't change it every year, but similarly, we can't just lose every year, and that's what we're doing just now. There's one thing I was going to say, though. I do think third place still gets you the Europa League unless Dunfermline win the Scottish Cup.
I don't know.
But I think the first 2 go into Champions League qualifiers, and then there's a Europa League place, isn't there? Which goes to the cup winners. But if Celtic win the cup, they'll already be in the Champions League, so we'd get the Europa League. Not that it's much a consolation. I think I'm right in that.
Let's be honest, the only thing we're actually playing for now is to stop them winning the league next week. And in Parkhead, they'll be absolutely flying. Hearts have got to go and beat Motherwell on Saturday night as well, which I don't really see happening for some reason. Right, second half, goals we concede are criminal. First goal, Jack Butland completely flat-footed, doesn't react. Once it hits the post, he just stands. James Tavernier and Scov Olsen completely asleep at the back post. The only one that's not is Kingsley. And by the way, it's not like he bullets it in. He side foots it in and it goes softly into the net. It's defensively so poor. We show Kizaridis onto that side to shoot as well, and it hits the post, we don't react. The second one, again, we have such a bad habit of doing this. We've done it at Falkirk, we've done it last week. Rangers are in control to clear it, and we don't. It ends up down by the side and cut back. And here's the thing, if you watch it again, Shanklin standing in between Giga and Fernandez. Manny Fernandez, who has been brilliant, has still got a lot to learn. He watches him pull right off him, doesn't react, doesn't attempt to block. And yeah, it is 2-1. And at that point, everybody in their granny knows it's out. It's over. Once again, we throw shit at the wall and we make various substitutions and we try and do this and we try and do that. But it was never going to happen. We don't manifest a shot. We don't sorry, we don't manufacture a shot, we don't manufacture a chance. Nothing really happens. I'd love to argue and say that we didn't deserve it, or it wasn't predictable, it wasn't this, it wasn't that. Hearts have just shown the spirit that we all wanted Rangers to show, and came out and won that game in the second half, Kenny. Yeah, there's so much wrong with both those goals. From the defending, the reaction, we're so flat-footed, we just don't react. Everything is just, it's the same speed that we played in the first half of how we defend. So yeah, I mean, ball watching for the first, ball watching for the second, no awareness, no. We played like a team that just didn't have that desire to go and win a game that we should be trying to win, to go and win a league. And we got exactly what we deserved, which is knocked out of a title race. But the second half, Kenny, Davey just about summed that up.
Well, you look at the start of the second half, Stevie, and you can't say that the goal wasn't coming, because it was clearly coming. And that's what concerns me. The players are standing back kind of with no intensity. We're far too easy to play against when this happens. See, when a team starts to play and ping the ball about, by God, can they ping it about against us? It's far too easy to play against this Rangers team, Stevie. It's that simple. The fact is, we've lost, is that 8 goals in the last 4 games? Is it 10 goals in the last 4 games? Sorry. 10 goals in 4 games. I mean, it's criminal at this time of the season. This is the time of the season when you have to be tight as possible at the back. And we're not. We're all over the place. The first goal, the second goal, there's multiple points of error there, right? But it's a fine finish. I'll give Shankland the credit for that. It's a cracking finish. However, the first goal is just, if it's another team, I'm laughing. Put it that way, because it's so bad on so many different levels. Nobody's tight. Nobody's getting even on it. They're not even fully aware. You look at it, there's an angle that showed you it from, and Scott Wilson, as you said, is on his heels, but he's not even particularly looking. Tavernier's definitely not looking. Jack Butland is slow to get back up off the ground. But before that, with the shot with Kizaridis that comes off the post, look at the 3 around about him. It's just terrible. It is absolutely appalling. And if it's almost the same as last week, where we looked at it and thought, well, if you were watching that Motherwell game, you would think Motherwell were trying to win a league. Well, you could tell for sure tonight, by God, who was trying to win that league in that second half, and it wasn't us. And that's what's criminal about that second half performance. But at some point, you're going to have to match your opponent's intensity. We're not prepared to do that. There's individuals in that team that don't do that, Stevie. And frankly, again, I'm going to call it, that is down to setting your team up and making sure they're up for it. And we weren't. So we got what we deserved in the second half, Stevie. The first goal, as I say, is so bad that if it was anybody else in the league, I'd be laughing. It's just pathetic. I mean, it's genuinely pathetic. And as I say, what I will do with the second goal is I'll give Shankland the credit for a fine finish.
Yeah, could end up being 7 points behind Celtic and 10 behind Hearts at the end of this week, which is quite frankly fucking criminal stuff. Davey, that second half, the goals conceded, it kind of just sums everything up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what there is to add. It's just Kenny's absolutely spot on. The lack of intensity and awareness in the defence has been the same for the last few weeks now. But I suppose it's got to be said, we've been hearing for the last few weeks about all these cup finals we're going to be playing. And then after last week's defeat, the first thing the manager said in his press conference after it was that the game at Tynecastle now is a final, and it's a season on the line, and this is the game we absolutely must win. And so in a game like that, what kind of attitude do you expect to see from your players on the pitch? You'd expect to see them winning 50-50s, running through brick walls, etc. There was just, we looked like a team who hoped something might fall our way, whereas Hearts look like a team that wanted to go out and grab it and make sure it happened. And the second half, they absolutely totally deserved the win because of their attitude in the second half. And there's going to be lots of calls now for big changes. I think Andrew Kavanagh was there tonight. I'm sure I saw he was there tonight. Penny for his thoughts, because he must be sitting saying, I've just pumped the best part of 50 million quid into this team, and that's what I'm getting for it. I'll be very surprised if he isn't on the phone to his other investors tonight to ask them their opinion and what they think should be done for next season, because he's not going to throw 50 million quid down the drain again in future without making decisions around about who's going to spend it and who's going to be in charge of organising it once it is spent.
Well, the owners were certainly ruthless when it came to removing Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell. Whether they'd done it in time or not, we're never ever going to know. Kevin Muscat was not in their way, and please can we pack this in? It was another bald guy with a beard. It wasn't Kevin Muscat. Okay, so here's where I'm talking. We said it was going to be straight shooting. And here it is. Finishing third under Rangers is completely unacceptable. No matter what, it's embarrassing for our football club. And whoever's behind that shouldn't continue. Regardless, there has been too many big occasions now that the team and the manager has let us down. That starts off with having Celtic twice in a week and being unable to lay a glove on them. Celtic being, by their own fans' admission, not the best team that they've seen in several years. Winning 6 out of 14 top games for Danny Rule just isn't good enough at all. I believe the trajectory of this football club is going in the right direction, but we've once again, in only true Rangers fashion, managed to put ourselves in a position where we now have to ask the most serious of questions. We're playing now to stop Celtic winning the league, which requires just stopping them from winning on Sunday, basically. And we're going to be third, which we're unsure if it's Europa or Conference. I was sure it was Conference football. But either way, it's going to mean a really shit summer. It's going to mean a really short break. There's big questions surrounding the players, the mentality, and several of them who we maybe put on a pedestal have let us down. James Tavernier's going at the right time, and I'm sick for him that he goes with nothing, but it kind of just sums everything up. Two Romans you can build upon, Manny Fernandes you can build upon, but you need another centre back. Big question, goalkeeper. I don't think Jack Butland has had a terrible season, but the fact is that see when teams shoot against us, Jack Butland doesn't save them. And I like Jack Butland. I don't think he's a worse goalie, and I had an argument with somebody about this before, but there's probably a big question mark over Jack Butland. There's a question mark over our midfield. No matter how many players you put in there that are nice, they're never ever good enough to be, three. When you're going to 3 and stuff and you're getting dominated at Tynecastle, Motherwell, to whatever. There's question marks over individuals, Telo Asgard. There's question marks over Nico Raskin. There's question marks over Diamande. There's question marks over, the wingers at a football club. I thought the same as you tonight about Mikey Moore. I think Mikey Moore's fantastic, but I also think Mikey Moore tries to do too much. And do you know why he does too much? Because there's nobody fucking around him to help him. I think Scova Olsen is completely done at the football club. I always thought and always felt like Rangers would and should sign him. We can't spend that amount of money on him now, finishing third, where our budget's going to be needing to be used properly. We can't justify that. Up front, I think Chermiti will be a good player. We don't really have time to hang about and wait for that. I don't know what the answer is with Yusuf Chermiti is in the Deary up with him. Would you just sell him for the big bucks we're going to get in the summer? Probably. There's too many question marks over this football club. There's too many question marks over the manager. And here's the thing, right? Here's the big thing for Rangers, and we're once again back. And look, I like Danny Rule. I really do. I really like Danny Rule. See if you stick with Danny Rule, Kenny, Davey, here's the biggest problem. See if he loses a couple, we're back to demanding he goes. And we're not even in September and August and October. And that's the biggest problem that this football club has got, again, because once the fans make up their mind, once the fans react, and once the fans have their say, it doesn't get changed. So how the hell do you go and fix this? If you gamble and just keep with them, and then we have a poor start to next season, or we drop a game here or there, the fans will react to this. We're once again back in a situation where the fan base is wanting to react. And that's criminal from a situation where a couple of weeks ago we were in the position to play and go top of the league. As I said to you, by the end of this week, we could be 10 points behind Hearts and 7 behind Celtic and marooned in third. So I've always felt like Steven Gerrard would be the one that Rangers would go and get. That's so much question marks and everything else over that. I know Andrew Kavanagh really likes him. I know he didn't take it because of previous people. They're not here. He only really wants a job in the summer, blah, blah, blah. That's going to come up again. Kevin Muscat's going to come up again. I don't really know who you would go and else you would go and get. It's just we talked about Rangers being in the best position over Hearts and Celtic when coming into summer because we don't need a rebuild. But the facts are that we're going to need to rebuild again. If we do get a shoe-in or even a defeat or whatever at Sunday, the 80% of fans that want Danny Rule out will quickly become 100%. And there's no point lying about it. Look, there's no point. Danny will face the wrath and the swell of the support to get him out, Kenny, and that's exactly where we are, unfortunately, all over again.
Well, yeah, because we have this incredibly, it's a gift that we have of managing to find ourselves needing a new manager about Halloween every single year. And that's why I started off with this. This is where we now have a decision to make come the summer. Whoever takes pre-season has to be given the whole season next season. This is my point. You have to give the guy the players and the pre-season. Let him work all summer with his players and then move on from there. Give the guy the season and see where it is. Now, the issue I've got at this moment in time, Stevie, and I've been saying this for a long time, that I genuinely believe that we have the best or the most talented squad of players in the league. I think our squad's probably stronger than the other two. So it becomes a mentality issue. The mentality of the players, the mentality at the football club. It's all of this that concerns me. And I don't think you can highlight it any more than what we've watched in the last week against Motherwell and tonight. I don't think it can be highlighted any better than saying, look, at the mentality of these players, at the mentality of a football club, when you put yourself in position, go and win your games, and you can win this league. And we, excuse my French, but we shit the bed. It's what we do. Now, somebody has to carry the can for that. And I'm not saying that you just go and take a scattergun approach to it. Don't take a machine gun to everything. What you have to do is be constructive as the owners and try and figure out a process here from this tonight to the summer and what you're going to do to get this football club back on the right track, because we are clearly not on the right path to win league titles, Stevie. We've won one in so many years now, it's ridiculous. And if the owner wants big shiny things and wants to be successful and wants to get other investors and produce wonderful things, decisions are going to have to be made. It is that simple, because you don't go about spending 50 million quid in a squad to come out and say you've shot the bed twice against Celtic in cup competitions, and then when it gets to the crunch in the league, you just crumble in front of everybody's eyes. There's something wrong, and that's my problem. There is something wrong. What that is, I have my own ideas. I could go on for about an hour talking about it. I'm not going to do that. It's up to Andrew Kavanagh, Parag Marathi, who I think was also there tonight, and the other investors to figure this out and say what is best for this football club. Because tonight, whether Danny Rule likes it or Rangers like us saying it. And I know that this isn't personal. None of this is personal. This is all for a love of the football club that we want to see successful, and they're not successful. So there has to be a strategic plan put in place to get this club back on the right track, because we're clearly not. And it's very disappointing to watch the last week unfold in front of our eyes. And I'm sure Danny Rule's disappointed, the players are disappointed, some more than others, I would imagine. And I'm sure the owners and the directors are all disappointed, Stevie. We're all disappointed, but it needs fixed. We can't just go, right, well, let's just look at it and see where we are in the... It needs fixed from today.
Stevie?
Yeah, a couple of things in that. One is that when I can see Kenny's point when he talks about he thinks we've got as good a squad of players as anybody else has got in the league, if not better. But next season, I don't think there's any doubt that the team across the city are going to spend a lot of money this summer. They're going to bring in a new manager. They're going to get rid of. They're going to spend a lot of money. They won't be as bad next year. I don't know who they're going to bring in, but they won't be as bad next year as they were this year. And they might still win the bloody league this year, even though they are bad. The rebuild that is required at Rangers reminds me greatly of when we brought Souness in, when we had went years without challenging for the league, and when we brought Gerrard in, when we had just finished third for a couple of years in a row. Both owners at that time recognised the fact that the rebuild had to start with a figurehead. It had to start with somebody that a support that was utterly fed up, somebody that they would rally around and give time to. Because I think it might be important. But your comment at the start there around about if Danny Rule was to stay next season, but we lost a couple of games early on, it would just turn. It's going to be toxic now. It would just be completely and utterly poisonous by that time. So I can see the merits in trying to find the next version of a Souness and Gerrard type figurehead leader type manager. Don't ask me who it should be, because I don't know that. It could be Gerrard again, but I think he wouldn't get the time that he got the first time, simply because I think he's got a bit of baggage with us now. I personally don't think that the owners are going to stick with who they have. I think if I was a betting man, I'd be thinking that they, after watching that today, will want to clear the decks and to build from ground zero. I don't know who that leader is, but whoever that leader is that does come in, Kenny's right. He needs to be here for the whole summer. He needs to be there to be able to be there as the team gets built. And whoever it is needs to be a ruthless bastard the way Souness and Gerrard were, because there is so much dead wood in that squad. It's not true. It's a massive rebuild. It's going to cost a bit of money. Although in saying that, we do have some assets we could sell to fund some of it. Chermiti definitely being one, because I keep hearing that we might almost double our money in him, and you bite your hand off for that, surely to God. Fernandez maybe as well, I don't know. But I think it is time to basically raise it to the ground.
There's plenty of players in there that you could sell and get money to, that you probably have to make ruthless decisions with.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it needs to be. If we're going to rebuild, let's do it properly. Let's not do it half-arsed and keep half a team that we know is not good enough. There's very, very few in that squad who I think have got the combination of ability and mentality to take you to a title. Maybe we can't buy 15 players that are all good enough, but we need half a dozen at least.
Yeah, some laugh, isn't it? Because now we're back to the same stuff that we were actually getting away from. It's really positive. I genuinely thought we were going to do it. I genuinely thought that we looked strong. Just not good enough, ladies and gentlemen. Take that on the chin. It's really painful one. It really, really is. I I'm not calling for Danny Rule to go yet, but I think the problems are quite evident that if you go to Parkhead and get beat next week, then the majority of the fans will want him out. If you do stick at it and then he has a poor start to the season, or we go to Europe, something early happens, or we draw an early game, as we inevitably will, because we fucking love a draw, don't we? Then we're back to the very, very start. So it's either you be ruthless or you stick with it and be prepared to stick with it. Because if you give Rule the summer, you then have to give him, the season and just watch how it unfolds, in my opinion. Because if you get back to September and then look to make a change, you're in the exact same cycle of what we're in, which is you get to September, you make a change, he then gets a lift from this shower, and we go all over again. And we get to this point, we shit the bed, we do it all over again. So Kenny, you either do it now and you take that gamble, or you wait and just stick with it and see where it goes, because you give him the fact that he's got us back into it. We have Luke, blah blah blah. Argue whatever way you want, but I am of the opinion you as if we are going to do this, it has to be right now. It can't be where we get into that cycle. See, if you give him the summer and prepare to go again and it's not working early doors, then you need to just stick with him, either because the fear is you're back to September and the whole thing goes and goes. Boys, that's where I am. You either do it in the summer, give him it all, or you just don't do it at all, and we just see where next season takes us. I'm with you boys as well in terms of the squad and where it is. I've said it for quite a while. Jesus, man, I feel like I've done this show about 30 times. Like, genuinely, I feel like I've spent the last 2 years or 4 Lads of the Dream since it started repeating myself. But it's where we are. It's Rangers Football Club. Third is not an option. There needs to be a fallout for that. There needs to be consequence for that, especially when you've got yourself in that position, especially when you've spent that amount of money. Jesus, man. Kenny, Davey, come in, help me. I'm very much
I'll ask you, Stevie, is there a body of evidence over the last 6, 7, 8 weeks that would make you want to keep the status quo as it stands? Or has there been too many mistakes made when you have that pivotal decision to make? And it's what I was saying about why it's really got to be a decision that's made over the next couple of weeks, Stevie. It really has to be made quickly. What are you going to do? So say for talking, I'm not necessarily saying I want Steven Gerrard. I wanted Steven Gerrard last summer, and it didn't happen. Or when Russell Martin was employed, I wanted that happened, and I wanted it then when he was sacked. Now, whether it happens or not is by the by. But what I would suggest to you is that if Andrew Kavanagh is close to him and does want him, and there's hints of him taking the job in the summer, then the decision has to be made now. If that's who you want, you're going to have to deal with this very, very quickly. If it's not, and it's somebody else that you want to go with, then the timescale doesn't change. You're going to have to look at the summer and say, we need somebody in who is going to, exactly what we've all been saying here, who can get that pre-season and help build this squad with a recruitment team. So that you can turn around and say, this, we've not had this for a number of seasons now, Stevie, since Gerrard's left. Where, with Michael Beale, I believe, was the last one that got a pre-season where he had come in and expected to stay. And it went tits up very, very quickly. And it's been chaos ever since. Do you know what I mean? It's just been absolute chaos since the day that Michael Beale's left, with this continued cycle of sacking managers during a season. You need to have, personally, a manager in that's going to come in, or it's going to be Danny Rule, and he's going to have to be here for the remainder of next season. And that's my point about why the question needs to be asked about Danny Rule now. I'm like Davey now. I am sick and tired of the look where we came from. Listen, I don't care where we came from. At the end of the day, it was only 8 games. You've now had 30, 27, 28 games, whatever it is, 27 games he's had now. And as of next week, if we lose that, he's only going to be 3 points better off than he was when he came in against Hearts. So that's the bottom line. It's a mentality issue for me. It really is. It's encapsulating the football club at this minute in time, where we don't win big shiny things. We don't. We're not winning things, and that has to be corrected. And you have to decide if you're Andrew Kavanagh, is Danny Rule the man to do that? And the jury is well and truly out. It is. It has to be, because there's been so many, and I don't like saying the word mistakes, because it's football, but there has been mistakes made. The glaring mistakes, tactical errors, substitutions that haven't worked, wrong teams. There's been so many different times when you've looked at it, when I'm not convinced with this. Motherwell away, when you're 1-0 up, they're down to 10 men, you drop points. From all these points forward, we have made a backside of this. And as I say, we're all disappointed, and people will be angry on the comments. I get that, but it's a decision that has to be taken into consideration, because any Rangers team that is out the league title with 3 games to go and not going to win anything is a failure. It's a failure of a season. So they have decisions to make. And I personally would be looking at a change at this minute in time.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. I suppose the question is, what would you expect from next season if we don't make a change? So if Kenny's talking about the tactical side of things, the substitutions and team selections and all that kind of stuff, reacting to other managers' substitutions, in-game decisions, if you're talking about that kind of stuff, then the evidence over the last 3 months probably is pretty negative towards Danny Rule in terms of should he get the job next season, should he remain in job next season. But if he did remain in the job, what evidence is there that we won't be talking about those same tactical errors and poor substitutions and bad decisions all over again? I don't like sitting in the podcast straight after a game and talking about changing manager, because I think it is a bit knee-jerk, but it's very difficult not to be in that place after the expectation that we built up.
Davey, you're absolutely right. It is knee-jerk. The problem is, though, that it's now the hottest topic for Rangers fans everywhere.
Absolutely.
And every single one is asking questions. There'll be very much, I have seen, it's a landslide in the comments of wanting Danny Rule out. There's very, very little support for him now. And that was always going to be the issue. So I'm with you. I feel the same. It is knee-jerk. It is harsh. It is whatever people have said. But the fact of the matter is, we can sit here and we can not discuss it. We can sit here and shirk it, or we can tackle it head on, because we're supposed to be a podcast for the fans, and this is the questions that they're asking. So I agree with you, mate. I really do. But unfortunately, do you know what the topic of conversation is going to now be for the next 2 weeks until this season finishes? Is Danny Rule.
And do you know what? I'll go back to the day that he got appointed in the press conference the press conference at Ibrox. Andrew Kavanagh sat and said, "There's still 4 competitions we can win this season," because we were still in everything actually when he took over. He lost to Celtic in both cups. The League Cup one, maybe he was a little bit unlucky, although we were outplayed for most of that game. But the Scottish Cup one was an absolute disgrace. It was absolutely shocking. Celtic had half a team missing and we held a shot at goal against them. Then the league, yes, we were all those points behind, but that doesn't matter, because in February we were 2 points behind and the league was very much in our own hands. It's been our own mistakes that have cost us. I think you said at some point, Stevie, a few weeks ago, the only team that's going to stop Rangers is Rangers. That's exactly what's happened. And it's been a combination of, some of it is players who simply aren't good enough. And no matter who the manager is, Telo Asgard is never going to be somebody that's going to run through brick walls. No matter who the manager is, Gassama is never going to be consistent. No matter who the manager is, Giga and Fernandez won't occasionally have a brain fart. I mean, that's unfortunately the standard of player that we've got. But Kenny's absolutely spot on in terms of the number of the amount of evidence that has built up over the last 3 months in terms of how the team is being organised and coached, and to the team selected, how the players are organised, how substitutions are made, how we respond to situations in game. And I think that the body of evidence is building to such an extent now that it would be more of a gamble to stick than it would be to twist. And that is why I think Rangers will twist. And I hope when they do, that it is a strong figurehead type manager that we bring in, not a head coach who does what he's told.
Kenny, thank you, mate, for joining us. Much appreciated. Yeah, someday this will all end and we'll be happy, but it's not going to be very soon. Another summer of questions, another few weeks ahead of more disappointment and question marks. It's just, it does get a wee bit more soul destroying every single time it goes on. See it come so close and have it in our grasp. Yeah, it's pretty, to finish third in this race is pretty grim. I don't think we'll get a result on Sunday because this team doesn't do it. Well, pressure's off, I suppose we might. That's the only thing we're playing for now, is to stop them winning this league. So that in itself is the position we get ourselves in is pretty grim. I bang on all the time about standards, and people fell out with me when I said about James Tavernier and standards of this football club. I can't possibly sit here and say that third place should be enough for Danny Rule to continue. There's huge question marks there. This is going to rumble on, Kenny. But yeah, thank you, mate, as ever, for joining us. Pleasure.
2.5 years we've been doing this, mate, and it's not getting any easier. When we lose games and we toss big shiny things in the River Clyde, and that's what we keep doing. We keep just getting them within our grasp, and they slip out of our hands, and that's the crunch and the be all and end all of this. The Rangers are supposed to be about winning trophies. That's the bottom line. We're going to end up empty-handed this season. We're going to finish third in the league with an absolutely disastrous European campaign behind us. So if people are pissed off at us, talking for other fans, and certainly the fans that will sit and watch this, who, as you say, there's 95% of people on here are just wanting them gone tonight. It is a reactionary thing. We get that, but questions need to be asked, Stevie. It is that simple. You can't have a season like this at Rangers and not expect the fans to be utterly pissed off. So thanks for having me on. Thanks for coming on, Davey. And these are always tough, these ones, because it is difficult to keep your emotions in check, particularly when you're looking at the comments as well, and you see that most folk are kind of agreeing with what you say or what you feel. It is what it is. We just move on, Stevie, and let the board do their thing, let Andrew Cameron do his thing. But as I say, I'll reiterate, I've been saying it for an hour now. Decisions need to be made. Big, tough decisions need to be looked at, discussed, and made.
Davey, thanks, mate, as ever. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I was going to say it was a pleasure, but it was nothing of the kind, to be quite honest with you. I've not been doing this as long as you guys have, but it does feel as if it's just a broken record, doesn't it? And it's going to be a while now before we can be happy, smiling people on this podcast, I would think. But it could be worse. We could support them. So always be thankful that we are the people.
That gives me very fucking little pleasure at this moment in time. The Rangers I knew and grew up with won things, demanded things, and we're just so far short of that. It's incredibly difficult to deal with. What do you say? I'm never going to sugarcoat it because I just won't do that, and I've been massively guilty of being as positive as I possibly could over these players, over these games, over the head coach. And do you know what? I'll take my brunt of criticism for that, because positively manifesting, trying to will them to actually win this league when there's so many people warning me of what was coming. I can't sit back and allow Rangers Football Club to finish third and then just go, yeah, everything's okay and we shat the bed, but it's all right, it'll be fine next season. I think stuff has to happen on the back of this that is difficult. But we can't keep accepting trophyless seasons and allowing them to become what sadly now is the norm. We need to buck that trend. So if this season peters out and finishes disastrously, without a doubt, defeat on Sunday will ask questions of Danny Rule, and by ask questions, I mean 100% of the fans will most likely want him to go. It is what it is. Unfortunately, that's life at Rangers Football Club. It is what it is. We now play on Sunday in a hope of stopping them winning that league. Even a draw will most likely do that if Hearts can go and win on Saturday night, which we're now in a position of hoping they do, which is pathetic as it is himself. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Huge thanks to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clyde View, Fire Protection and Joinery, Afflo Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, our very own Candid, and our Sunday sponsors, rydc.co.uk. What can I say? Thank you again, everybody in the comments, almost everybody in the comments, those that are gloating to enjoy the moment. Personal message from me, I put something up on my Instagram. Really difficult week last week. I wasn't on the pod, people may have noticed. I actually lost my dog on Sunday, which she was literally 15 years, and she was just the love of my life. So that was difficult. And then promptly went and lost my job last week as well. So it was some week. I appreciate everybody that's got in contact. The offers of people trying to help and get in contact with me has been remarkable. So hopefully I'll have better news on all that front soon, job wise and things like that. So I appreciate everyone reaching out. We don't do this for the glory. We do it because we love our football club, enjoy the banter with the opposing fans and everything else. It is what it is, but real life can suck, and it generally has done the last week, and Rangers have thoroughly helped kick me right where it hurts also. So what can you say? Appreciate all your help and all the support, ladies and gentlemen. And we go again. We'll be back Thursday night, Kenny, you and I, on Thursday, I think this week. And Friday we'll be back, and then Sunday show next week. So there'll be plenty of content. And we hope that you enjoy that. Davey interviewed Willie Matheson last week before for I Remembers, which is incredible story of his career at Rangers. If you are a member, please go and check that out. We would really love your feedback on that. So, what we're going to go and do, Everton Man City, 0-0 at the moment. That's on Sky Sports. So if you want some football that can end your night, I'm going to go and stare at the wall and wonder what the fuck I've done to deserve this. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate everything. Take care. Have a good night. Bye.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde View Joinery, Afflo Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.